They called him the Oracle of Wall Street, Marcus Thorne. At 32, he didn't just play the game, he was the game. From the top floor of a skyscraper that pierced the clouds, he could feel the pulse of the world's economy and bend it to his will. Every tick of the market was a note in a symphony only he could hear.
His success wasn't just his own. It was forged by his mentor, Julian Croft, a legend in the concrete canyons of finance. To Marcus, Julian was more than a boss. He was the father figure he never had. "We don't follow the market, Marcus," Julian would say, a glint in his eye. "We make the market."
But then came the Odyssey Fund, a deal Julian called the opportunity of a lifetime. The numbers on paper were perfect, almost too perfect. A quiet voice in Marcus's gut screamed that something was fundamentally wrong, a tiny, invisible flaw in the architecture. When he raised his concerns, Julian simply placed a hand on his shoulder and smiled. "Your caution is what makes you great, my boy. But this time, you just need to trust me."
And he did trust him. He poured everything into the fund, his own capital, his reputation, his clients' faith. The collapse wasn't a slow crumble, it was an explosion. In 24 hours, the Odyssey Fund evaporated into thin air. And Marcus Thorne, the Oracle, was at ground zero of $1 billion crater. But as he stood in the ruins of his life, he saw one man walking away without a single scratch: Julian Croft.
The vultures of the press descended. Marcus Thorne was the perfect scapegoat. His face was plastered on every screen, his name dragged through the mud. He was the villain in a story written by the man who had orchestrated it all. While Julian Croft issued solemn statements to the media, Marcus was fed to the wolves, stripped of his licenses, and blacklisted from the world he once ruled. But the financial loss was nothing compared to the personal cost. The phone stopped ringing, the fair-weather friends vanished like ghosts at dawn. His wife, who had married the legend, couldn't live with the man who had lost it all. Soon, the silence in his empty, cavernous penthouse was louder than the shouting crowds outside.
He lost the penthouse. He lost everything. To survive, Marcus Thorne, the man who moved markets, started moving people. He traded his tailored suits for a worn-out jacket, the skyline view for a cracked windshield. He became a yellow cab driver in the city that had once been his kingdom. He was no longer moving millions with a click, but moving strangers for a few dollars a mile. For months, he drove in a haze of shame and anger. But from the driver's seat, he saw something he couldn't see from his ivory tower: the real world. He heard the stories of ordinary people, their hopes, their struggles, their small victories. And then, one day, he saw it. Julian Croft's face, smiling from a giant billboard, advertising a new fund built on the ashes of Marcus's career. And in that moment, something shifted. The fire wasn't out. It had just been burning low, waiting for fuel.
His taxi became his new trading floor. He listened, he learned, he absorbed the whispers of the city. One rainy night, he picked up 2 junior analysts from Croft's firm. Flush with bonuses and arrogance, they spoke freely, convinced their driver was just part of the city's furniture. They talked about Titan Consolidated, a company Julian was hyping as the next big thing, a new Odyssey Fund.
It was all he needed. Marcus spent his nights not sleeping, but digging. He used the last of his savings for prepaid internet at late-night cafes. He traded fares for insider gossip from security guards and janitors at corporate headquarters. From the outside, he looked like a broken man chasing ghosts. But on the inside, the Oracle of Wall Street was reawakening. He was connecting dots no one else could see.
And he found it, the fatal flaw. Titan Consolidated was a house of cards, propped up by inflated assets and deceptive accounting, Julian's signature style. It was designed to soar high and then crash, wiping out small investors while the insiders parachuted out with fortunes. The pattern was identical to the Odyssey Fund, but this time Marcus wasn't inside the building. He was outside, watching, and he knew exactly when the storm would hit. He sold the last thing of value he owned, his father's vintage watch, the one Julian had once admired. It gave him a meager stake, not enough to build an empire, but maybe enough to light a fire. He walked into a small, grimy brokerage firm, a place for gamblers and dreamers, and with trembling hands, he placed it all, every last cent, not on Titan Consolidated to win, but on it to fail. He was betting against Julian Croft. He was betting on himself.
For a week, nothing happened. The stock for Titan Consolidated continued to climb. The news celebrated Julian Croft's Midas touch. Every tick upwards on the screen was a dagger in Marcus's gut. The weight of his bet was crushing. He was one bad news cycle away from total annihilation, from being a ghost on the streets of New York forever. He didn't sleep. He barely ate. He just watched the numbers, waiting for the signal only he knew was coming.
Then it came, a small, obscure report from an overseas regulator questioning Titan's supply chain. It was the first domino. Marcus, using an anonymous tip line, fed his own meticulously gathered research to a hungry, independent journalist. The story broke. A crack appeared in the dam. The market hesitated. Then panic began to ripple as the truth of Titan's fraudulent foundation spread like a virus.
The fall was faster than the rise. Titan Consolidated imploded, and as billions of fictional value vanished from the screens, Marcus's small stake, magnified by the leverage of his bet, began to multiply. 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. In the chaos of the collapsing market, he wasn't just recouping his losses, he was forging a new fortune from the ashes of his enemy's empire. He didn't celebrate, he just watched the symphony of chaos he had conducted, note by perfect note. Marcus Thorne never returned to a skyscraper office. He had learned a lesson that couldn't be quantified on a balance sheet. True wealth isn't about the numbers in your account, but the knowledge in your head and the resilience in your spirit. He created a new firm, one that operated from a modest office dedicated to protecting small investors from the predators he knew so well. He didn't need to be king of the game anymore. He had become its gatekeeper. Because sometimes, to truly find your worth, you must first lose everything you thought you were.